YouTube series on this particular mead that we were making. That's on the 9th of May. And it's now ready to be racked off. So we thought we'd rack it off live so you can all see how it's done. This is a traditional sweet mead. In this 10-litre bucket, we added 2.9 kgs of honey, 2 lemons, 1 grapefruit, and about 7 litres of water, and then our yeast.
You normally write it on a label, eh?
Yes, so we normally write it on the label. I like to use a masking tape because it's easier to write it on. You can take it off easily and move it from one bucket to the next if you need to as you swapping it around, so that you don't lose track of what is happening in that bucket.
You also write the date, huh?
Yes, we always write the date that we're making it so that we can track the batch number, which is quite important. And that way I often also write little details of, I boiled the fruit this time and then I added some vanilla. So any detail in terms of what we've done to this bucket to make this recipe different to other ones, we would write on the label. And I also have a little book, I call it my mead Bible, where I write down all my recipes, so that if I have a winning recipe that's doing fantastically, I can recreate it without problems. So yeah, my little mead recipe book. So that's lots of fun. All right, so should we get started? Are you guys ready? Let's have a look inside here. Don't be shocked, it looks disgusting. Okay, so yuck. All right, so although there's lots of sort of myth and things in there, if you look carefully, you can see that it is actually fairly clear down the side. So there are still a couple of bubbles happening, etc. Don't stress. This is our first racking. We might rack it a second time. Well, we will definitely rack it a second time once it's settled. And this is also the point when you do this first racking. This is usually when we do our initial tasting. And we will decide here if we need to add anything more. So does it need to ferment further? Do we need to add extra honey? We call that back sweetening. If you need to add additional honey or any additional flavorants, this is the point where you might do it.
So just quickly, 2 things. The fruit's still inside here. Is that normal?
Yeah, so we always leave our citrus that we use in our initial mead making. We always leave that right till our first racking.
And they've got their skin still on, huh?
These have got the skins on. We are on new batches. We're actually trying it without the skin because the skin apparently does bring a slight bittery tannin to the aftertaste of the mead. So we're trying something different on another batch we've done where we've actually taken all the skins off. But up until now, all of our traditional meads we've made exactly like this with the skins on.
And just quickly, if people have got questions while we busy doing this, they can just post it on the comments.
Yes, definitely. Please send us questions so that we can answer you as we're going. We're all here to learn. And so let's learn together.
Cool, fantastic.
Great.
Let's have a look.
All right, so I must just tell you, we must always sterilize everything before we do anything. So this bucket we've sterilized with boiling water. It's ready for the meat to be racked off into. And then Kristie, believe it or not, I'm slightly blonde. I tried to sterilize this with boiling water as well. And so our cane is now slightly bent. So it should... We haven't had much luck with this cane, I must be honest. Anyway, but keeps life interesting, I suppose. What I have also done is I've put a little clip on here, just so that I can clip that onto the bucket that's receiving the racked off stuff, so that it doesn't float around and stuff. I've had that before. Do you have a question?
Yes, we've got a question. Are we here in South Africa?
Oh, yes. So we are in South Africa. We are in the Midlands of KZN. It's a bit chilly outside. This morning was 3 degrees. So, yes, we are in KwaZulu-Natal. And, this is where we run all our operations from all around.
And originally, just to give people a bit of a background, Bushveld Bees is actually a beekeeping company and not really a mead making company.
Yes, so basically, we are commercial beekeepers. We also run beekeeping courses. We have an online store where you can buy anything beekeeping related. And the mead came about sort of with us trying to find another avenue for some of our lesser enjoyed honeys. Like we here in the KZN area, we get a lot of sugarcane honey. And if you live in the Midlands and if you get sugarcane honey, you know, you can't even give that stuff away. Nobody wants it. So we thought we'd try and make some mead with it. Initially, my mom-in-law started making mead, and she preferred a drier mead, not really to my tasting. And so we thought, let's try with the sugarcane honey and make a slightly sweeter mead, which is what we've got here now. So that's become our winning recipe, and we stick to that most of the time. We do try and do different variants, making a melomel from time to time, or a hippocras or pyrmint, just adding various things to it to try and play around with those flavors. So yeah, I'm having loads of fun with it. Okay, should we get started? Right. So what we want to do is basically I've just put a little box underneath the bucket just to lift it ever so slightly on the one side, so that there's an area that's slightly deeper. So when I put the cane in, it won't.
You got to be quite gentle.
Yeah,
with
you
putting
have to
it
be
in,
very gentle because you don't want to stir this up. So there's a little bit of a gap here between the lemons, which I'm gonna push this through. Okay. So now that it's inserted, I don't want to have it too far down, because then I'm going to pull up all the sediment at the bottom. So I've basically placed the cane so that it's about here, and I'm going to start pulling it and get it.
I think it's got that little protector on the bottom.
It has got the protector on the bottom, but I can't see how deep the sediment is. So I still don't want to take a chance. Okay, so I'm not very good at this, guys, so let's just hope it works. And remember, there's a bit of a kink in it as well.
Now, this puts quite a bit of air into it, as someone commented.
To initially get it going, it does do that. But there we go. It's flowing nicely now.
And we let it run up against the side of the bucket, hey?
Yes,
so it doesn't...
Exactly. So I just want to move my clip. Sometimes if you're racking off a fruity melomel or something like that, you sometimes do tend to get quite a few bits of fruit and things like that in here. So that's also when it's very important not to have it right up against the bottom, because all that fruity bits will sink to the bottom, and then you end up with all of that coming through in the mead. So we want to try and get, as far as possible, a clear sort of liquid coming through. And as you can see, you can actually see the bottom of the bucket quite nicely. So yeah, this is running very quickly.
Quite clear, huh?
Yes.
There you go.
Right, any questions while we do this?
The other story is that some people actually take the fruit out of the mead while it's busy fermenting, or just after it's fermented. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, so some people do. They let it ferment for a certain number of weeks and then take the fruit out and leave it to continue fermenting, or sometimes even create a second fermentation. I'm not quite sure how what the result of that would be. I haven't done it myself. But maybe if you've done it, you can tell us what is the difference that it would make to your mead if you
have done it. Yeah.
If you have done it, yeah.
Okay. I think the best would be to try one with the fruit all the way to the end, and try exactly the same recipe, same timing, same honey, and do one without the fruit.
Exactly.
Taking it out. And then, okay, so this is the primary fermentation, is that correct?
Yes.
And then once it's now into the bucket over here, it could potentially start fermenting again, can't it?
Yes, we have had a batch or two where, you see, because we don't actually taste it before we rack it off. We work on a set 4 weeks, then we rack it off and we see what's happening. So if you were to test it and make sure that all the yeast has fermented out and so on, then you possibly won't have that. But because we often would back sweeten this if it's not sweet enough, and then we would allow it to do the second fermentation.
Okay, so you're not really particularly worried about it just yet at this stage.
So we'll have a taste. If it's it's going to sit in this bucket for another 2 weeks probably before we actually would bottle it anyway, if we weren't going to allow a second fermentation.
Okay, and then at what point do you measure the alcohol?
So that's actually really not, I'm not very good at that. That's not my department. Brian usually does it. So when we first started, we do an initial reading with the hydrometer. And then now that we've racked off the fruit and whatever, we'll do a second a second reading. Sometimes I do it, especially if we're doing larger batches, I'll actually do it before we even rack it off.
Yeah. So what we'll do is maybe do this one once we've finished back sweetening on this. And because as soon as you're adding more honey or any of the sugars, that would affect the alcohol. So it doesn't really have any point in measuring it now halfway.
Exactly. So only the recipes where we've already finalized everything, we do the final test and work out the alcohol content. Most of ours work to around 12 to 13%. Not too high.
Can we have a look here quickly at?
Sure.
So this is pretty much, this batch now is made exactly the same way that we've made our traditional batch. Is that correct?
Yes. So that one is made exactly the same, but the honey would be different. So the flavor would possibly be quite different. This one we found is actually quite a bit sweeter than our last batch. But I think that might be possibly because this has got a little bit of macadamia honey in it. So that helps to bring in a little bit more sweetness.
Okay.
Oh.
Fantastic.
Cool.
How's this doing?
It's going slow. Oh no, it stopped. Huh?
No, it's still going. It's so clear. It's like, it looks like it.
Going very slowly.
Very slowly. You want to give it one or two more.
Blockage maybe.
Yeah.
Front.
Down at the bottom there. There's still liquid inside the pipe. And so the distillery that does the
I'm not sure what's going on here.
that does the distilling on our commercial product.
Yes.
They actually have a pump, don't they?
Yeah, they have a pump.
And
So
then
this still has. I'm not quite sure why this isn't going anymore. Let's just give it another go. Brian, why don't you just hold that bottom part for me, please? Maybe it's that kink that I put into it.
there we go. It's running again. Okay, on the top.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, if it gets going now, that has mixed it up a little bit, but okay.
Fantastic. And someone asked on one of the previous videos, what do we do with the fruit and stuff that comes off the top there? You put it on your compost heap and stuff like that? Huh?
Yeah, so that goes onto my compost heap, and yeah, I'm sure the bees go and visit there.
Happy bees.
Happy bees, yeah.
Fantastic.
So mead is a lovely thing to have, especially on colder nights in winter. For those of you who maybe don't know what mead is, it's very similar to a sherry or a dessert wine or something. It's got a nice sweet taste, and it warms you up from the inside.
Okay, a lot of people make the mead in, those, what are those glass jar bottle things, and here you're making it in buckets. Is there much of a difference in that?
Look, one of the main reasons we haven't used the carboys, is what they're called apparently, is because it's been very difficult to find them in South Africa at the moment. There was a big shortage. So we just thought, well, we're not going to let that stop us from making mead. So we make it in buckets, and it works just as well. Some people use 5-liter water containers. Works the same. So long as it's sterilized, and we don't reuse the same bucket. So we use a bucket and then we're done with it. So it's sterilized, it's clean. These are all food grade buckets. So it hasn't given us problems.
And also at the end of the day, I mean, when we first started with the experimenting. We actually made them in drums, hey?
Yeah, no, we're lockdown specials.
Lockdown special.
We were very popular on our street, as you can imagine. Yeah, friends always wanted to come visit at our house.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Just remind if anyone's got any questions, post your question here and then we can tackle it now while we're busy.
Mead is still a fairly new skill. So, yeah, we're all learning together. And a wonderful way to learn from others who are also making is to join the South African Mead Makers Association, SAMA. And they are actually hosting a World Mead Day event. I think it's in the Lowveld on the 4th of August. So definitely try and check that out. It'll be an opportunity for you to go there and actually learn about different meads, meet some wonderful mead makers.
We'll post it on our Facebook page, Bushveld P's Facebook page. Yeah.
So,
look, I mean, it's a fairly new skill in South Africa, but it's the oldest known beverage to man, isn't it?
Yes.
Alcoholic beverage, is it?
Oldest known alcoholic beverage, and people have been making it for hundreds of thousands of years. So it's definitely something that, we should all be trying to make. It's also it's a very natural alcohol. It's very natural. It's got honey. It's got all those lovely antibodies and stuff that honey have in it. It's right there in a beautiful drink.
So let's just do a recap on the ingredients of this mead. It's basically water, honey, a couple of citrus fruit. There were lemons and grapefruit.
That's right.
And
then
yeast.
some yeast, yeah.
And that's it. And what it's quite a specialized yeast or normal yeast or what?
So look, guys, you can use specialized yeast. I like to do things simply. So I actually do a mixture of bread yeast and brewer's yeast, and we do half and half basically, depending on what the recipe needs. A lot of people think I'm crazy to do that, to put bread yeast, but it works for us. So why should we change it?
Yeah. And it worked on the original recipes that we tried, and we experiment with the specialized yeast from time to time, but the bread yeast works.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite clear, huh?
Huh?
It's quite clear.
Yeah, I think this has stopped pouring again.
Weird that these things keep stopping the whole time.
I wonder if it's not something that's getting stuck in the pipe. I don't know.
No, I think that's pretty much most of it out.
Can you hold that like that for me, please? There you go. Just a little bit of a blockage.
There you go, fantastic.
Okay, remember this last bit is going to be a little bit more murky than the original, what we started with. But that's okay, because it's still going to settle further over the next couple of weeks. So all this little bits of sediment that's coming through now, don't stress about it. It will settle when we...
So how long should we leave this to settle again now in this next batch in the bucket? Are we We're gonna just check the flavor now quickly.
Yeah, we're gonna taste it. We're gonna see if it needs any more sweetening, if everything tastes alright, and if we're happy with it, then we'll leave it for 2 weeks. If we're not happy, we'll add a bit of extra honey, and again we'll leave it 2 weeks, and then we'll check it again.
And do you have to use the same type of honey as that you used on the original making of it, or can you just change it?
You can change it up. You can change to whatever you want. It's up to you. Remember, this is your recipe. It's like saying if you're making spaghetti bolognese at home, when are you going to add the basil? Are you going to add basil, or do you prefer oregano? It's your preference. It's your honey.
Personal.
And and it's your mead. So it's up to your personal taste what you think it needs.
Okay.
So it's,
Fantastic.
Okay. I think we're pretty much at the end of this.
Still coming out here nicely.
Yes.
Very slow. There we go. Yeah, strange that it's sucking so much
So much air.
so much
It
air,
might be
hey?
because of the kinks I put in the pipe.
Yeah. But it is a little bit more tricky with these smaller buckets but this is our experimental way of testing different flavors.
Yeah.
And the bigger drums are probably be much easier.
Okay. So that's all done.
Okay, so that's all left. That goes on to the compost heap.
Yeah, that goes on the compost heap. And
All right. So now you go give it a quick little taste and let us know what it tastes like.
Move the
The
label,
label
across.
Fantastic.
So that we know. And what we'll do is on this label, we'll add a new date, which will be today's date. And we'll just say on there that we've wrapped it off. I have a Coke pen here. This one.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
Okay, so we'll just write here, racked first. And the date today is the 9th
So it's exactly
of the 6th.
because this was made on the 9th of the 5th, hey?
Yeah.
So exactly 4 weeks to the day.
Yes. So it's worked out really well. So now what I do is I'm just going to, so you can see there's not really much of anything in here. But, no little bits of fruit or anything like that. So I'm just going to...
Obviously, when you stir it like that, you made sure that there's no bubbles getting stirred into it.
Yes, and I'm also just actually looking for if there's any pips or anything like that left behind on the top, because sometimes one or two of those things will come through, but this one looks pretty clear. Okay, salute! So when you taste this now, you'll be able to taste if there's still a fermentation on it or not, because it'll be bubbly. This one has got a little bit of a bubble on it. And that grapefruit and lemon has made it slightly, what's the word?
Sour, bitter?
Sour. Yeah,
Sour?
I think it's a bit sour. But not in a bad way. It's got a definite grapefruit sort of taste to it. My personal preference is that we should add some more honey to this. We'll let Brian have a taste and see what he thinks. Usually we have a few of us tasting to make sure that everyone is sort of in agreement.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's more of a semi-sweet at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment it's more of a semi-sweet. So, and I prefer a sweeter.
And you can taste the grapefruit definitely afterwards. Huh?
Yeah, it's got a
Yeah,
definite grapefruit.
it's definitely a grapefruit mead if you want to call
Yeah.
it that. So the previous this was originally had honey that from the New Hanover area. So what we'll do is we'll try and put the same honey back inside here and just try and see that we keep the same flavor of the same type of honey as well.
Yes.
But just to get it a little bit sweeter.
Exactly. A lot of people do actually add other things to sweeten. When you watch all these guys on YouTube and Facebook, some of them add, maybe they'll add a fruit juice or something like that to add that sweetness. So it doesn't necessarily have to be honey, but in this particular case, I'd rather like to keep it to as traditional as possible. So,
got a question that came through here. They asked, can you just add normal fruit juice instead of actual fruit?
Yes, in fact, fruit juice is a lot more stable, I find. If you're adding fruit, if you think of a strawberry, sometimes if you eat a strawberry, it's beautiful and sweet, and sometimes you eat a strawberry and it's sour. So at least on a fruit juice, it has a more consistent flavor. and it tends to be a lot sweeter. So adding fruit juice, I find, is a lot more stable in your flavorings that you get at the end if you're using fruit juice.
Would you still need to add fruit for any other purpose? So
you might add fruit for color to bring in those colors. But remember, again, as you add fruit juice or fruit, you're adding a different type of sugar now again. So the chance, if we add that here now, there will probably be a second fermentation.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Okay.
All right.
So in here, just to give you an idea, this only had 2.9 kgs of honey. I would probably add another 500 grams of honey. Taste it. If it's good, leave it. If you need to add more, then you add more.
How do we dissolve the honey into the mead now? So this is essentially mead now. And now we want to add the honey in. We'd need to make sure that it is liquid honey.
Yeah, so if we are adding honey, if it's slightly granulated, I'll heat it on the stove slightly just to bring it up to a liquid consistency.
Up to what temperature?
About 35, 36. It will take slow, but you don't want to lose all that goodness in the honey and that lovely flavor. So I would try and get liquid honey as far as possible to add to this, mix it in nicely until it's well dissolved, and then leave it for 2 weeks.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, guys. We'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. We will check this out and possibly bottle it.
And
have a lovely Sunday.
We can subscribe to the channel and have a look. We'll post another live video this week coming.
Yes.
On another batch.
So guys, if you want to see the progress of this from right at the beginning, go to our YouTube channel. We've got a whole bunch of different videos of this particular mead, so you'll be able to track it. And then also anything else that you want to learn about beekeeping or mead or even honey. Join us on there, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a lovely week. Keep beekeeping and stay happy. Cheers for now.